Thank you.
Okay. So, so this is a color wheel that I made up with using New Gamboge, Antwerp Blue, and Scarlet Lake. Tonight I will be using New Gamboge, Antwerp Blue, and Red Rose Deep instead of Scarlet Lake. But you can use any pink, any blue, any yellow, or like, but this is what I want to warn you against. If you would only pick 3 colors and you picked these 3 colors, can you see that by the end of your painting, you're not going to have any of those opposites, you know, because the rule on this, what I'm doing, is that you use 3 colors. And then you get all these other wonderful colors using these. And so, so that's your first thing that you are going to be deciding on. The second thing you do is that you draw 3 shapes on your paper. Now, this paper, just so you guys know, is a 7x7-inch paper. You can do 11 by 11. I don't think I would go any bigger than that, at least to start with, because it just gets too complicated. I think it's better to start with these being a little bit smaller. But I do want to show you 3 shapes, and they are not touching each other, and they are not overlapping. So, but you could do 3 shapes. You could do 3 shapes like, here's in my notebook, I could do a square, and notice they're not perfect. I don't care at all. You will not notice at all if like this is wider over here than this. That's all good. So I've got another square within the square, but nothing's touching, right? So maybe I want to have a circle, you know, so I've drawn 3 shapes within this, okay? And then you're ready to go. So that's the way that I start these. And after that, then what we do is of our 3 colors, we are going to paint, we're going to paint 3, I've got this one a little bit wrong, don't I? Well, that's okay. We'll just go with it. I'm going to put the Antwerp Blue in the first one. And I want to show you, I'm sorry, I couldn't have enough room to be able to have you see my palette at the same time. But what I will do is I'll say every color that I'm going to be adding, and I want to show you how watery this is when I'm making it, so that you'll really see this is, there's no brush strokes in this. There's a lot of water, big pool of water is what you should have. So I'm tipping it so you can see. And Antwerp is a very strong blue. And so you really want to make sure that, I'm going to put this over here so I stay with my other ones. Make it a little bigger than what I have drawn there. The other thing I'm doing is I'm holding I have this attached to like a cardboard. I am holding my hand underneath the top of it so I can have gravity helping me out. And then do you see how wet this is? That means that you're not going to see one single brush stroke. And that is what's so nice about watercolor. I mean, when you really, at least I think, when you really get very, very good at watercolor, they look like they're just glass, you know. So that's a really, really nice thing. Okay, so now I'm going to do my Red Rose Deep. And again, I'm getting a great big pool of water. I keep adding water into the mixture. And so this is what my Red Rose Deep looks like. so you can see how wet it is. And I will put that on. I try not to get too dark at this, or well, any of these stages. I've got this drawn wrong, so I'm just going to ignore the drawing that I have there, because I have steps done, and I want you guys to feel like you're seeing the same painting here. So I'll put this like this. So that's my second shape. So and that's red rose deep. So my third shape, I could do this as a shape and this is a shape, right? This is all a connected shape. So I'm going to do either this one a yellow or I'm going to do this one a yellow. And for tonight's demo, I'm going to show you, because I have plans to kind of put the head in a white area. So I thought it would be really fun if that was white behind his head. So I'm going to make this yellow. So it's nice to have a white near your center of interest, at least I think. And then this is the new Gamboge. And we will make, new Gamboge can be a little garish if you're not careful. So I'd add a lot of water into that. Now this is the tricky one. I'm going to start in the middle of this and I'm going to bounce my brush. If I bounce my brush, it releases water more. Okay. And when I get close to that blue, I'm not going to touch it. If I do, I'm going to grab the blow dryer real quick. And because if you dab it, it'll make a pure white. But I'm going to try to have just a little bit of a border between these. Now, the other way you could do it, you're at home and have plenty of time maybe to, I don't know if anybody's painting along tonight. But if they want to dry each shape before they get to them, then they wouldn't have to do that little white. But I honestly like having that little white as a way to like repeat a color later on. It's amazing how that little teeny, that's great to have. So, oops, just yellow. And okay, and then I'll turn. I'm working as fast as I can because there's a risk in this middle part. If I don't get to this soon enough, that could have dried, you know, but I think I made it. I think I got there. And that's why I said smaller pieces to start with until you really learn the process of this are good to stay with a little bit smaller pieces. But I've done full sheets in this process. I had a headache afterwards though, tell you. Okay, so I've got this first one done. So that's what it looks like. That's how simple it can be, is that we've got our Antwerp, we've got our red rose deep, and we've got our yellow. And then because we drew 3 shapes, it actually makes 4 by the time, because you got that left over. Okay, so now, just like Julia Childs on TV has something in the oven, so I'm gonna, Julia Childs. I can't do an imitation, so why do I even try? Anyway, so I'm gonna add the second color. And so now what I have done is I have drawn 3 shapes and they are coming from the side, okay? They're still not touching each other. So this shape is not touching this shape, but they are overlapping the other ones that we've done, okay? Are we good with that? So now we're going to be, we'll do Antwerp. And we will put that on top and inside of these shapes that are coming from the edge of the paper. I was telling Wendy before this started that I actually have been working on this process of illusionary painting for, oh gosh, about 20 years. And I looked at paintings where they had ghosts, you know, looked like ghosts. And I always like, how did they do that? Did they add white to that? How did they get that ghosty look? But it truly is just like I'm showing you, where you have you're going to be negative painting around things, but you have something in the background that is distinct, hard edged, and then you're able to see through it just like magic. So I'm real anxious for you guys to see. It's amazing to me. I want you to see something I was doing wrong right there. I was like stroking this too hard. Like I said, you bounce your brush. If you bounce your brush, you release all of that water into it. If you pull it too strong, you are going to get, that's going to dry, that particular paint is going to be dry. And then it's going to cause oozles or backspills or crawls or whatever you call them. I call them oozles. So now we'll go with this one, this blue on here. Isn't it pretty already? Some of the colors, now they look blue to start with, but I want you to look like, especially over there at that one that will be violet, will be a purple later on. It's really cool to see the colors that happen. If you have any questions during the demo, is that okay, Mary? That we just, is anybody, I don't know, maybe they write them in the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, just add them in the chat room. I've been watching the chat. There's no questions so far.
So far, they're good. Okay, so there's our second layer where we have 3 shapes coming up. And I just love it but you'll notice there is no red over here yet, right? So don't worry, we will get there. And so so you'll see already this is changing. So as it dries, that other color comes through. So comes through the blue, and then you get a really pretty violet. But I know when I first started painting, I would always be painting with like a blue or whatever, and I think, oh, that's so pretty. And of course, when it dried, it wasn't as pretty because I wasn't thinking about what was underneath of it. I wasn't really paying attention to that. And so
we have a question here about, I want to know if your first layer is completely dry.
Yes, it is, and that's why I have I have 6 different stages of this that I did especially for this demo, so that I could keep it rolling and you guys wouldn't have to listen to the blow dryer. And I don't like using a blow dryer as much as I can when I'm painting. I think it kind of changes how pretty the glazes are. And so, yes, it is completely dry when I added this blue on there. Okay. So now with that in mind, here is another one, the next stage. And this is completely dry. This is the same thing as this, except that I'm going to show you how we draw our figures in there, or whatever you are going to put in. So let's say I like whatever I'm going to put in, I use tracing paper, because I'd rather make the mistakes on the tracing paper than I would to keep erasing and mucking up the surface of my watercolor paper. And so, and the thing that's neat about when you have these, I can put this like, see, this would not be a good place for this, right? With the head split half and half with the yellow. Can you see that through where it has the yellow and things? That wouldn't be a good idea. So, but if I move it over where his head is more, and I don't care if it's completely centered or whatever, I don't know. But I'm going to look at her head, and I want to make sure that's in a clear place, and I want his head. By the way, when you draw what I call clothespin people, let me just do that real quick for you. So Bob Burridge is the one that I learned how to do this so well from. And so you just basically do a little head. Now, most of my students, they do too big of heads. And so let's just say they did a bigger head, okay? And then, so then the shoulders come at an angle like this. And then our arms, their elbow would be like here. And then our hand is the same length as this. And our hand is about down here. So, and what you do is you just go like this. And so you got his elbow, his arm, and go down like this. So it's like a carrot. That's for the man. That's pretty easy. But most of my students will have the heads about this big. And I always tell them, well, now you have an angel. That's a really kind man. Then if you do the women, you want to have a little head, and I usually will have her put that down a little bit. I'll put her head a little bit shorter. Usually, women are a little shorter than men, and notice there's really not any necks. It's just a head, and then you come down to the shoulders, and then we just do the kind of the same thing where you figure out where their arms are. But with the women, it's almost easier because I usually put long dresses on them. And so that makes it pretty easy to be able to draw, you know, if you wanted to have them have a shopping bag, then you could do that. There's just so many things that you can do with that. With him, you can have him wear a tie. That's kind of cute. There's lots of things. But it's important. I like to have a space between them so you can be able to paint later on with dark between them. So if they're just like huddled up next to each other, it's not a really good stance.
Okay, Karen, we have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, so the second layer doesn't use all three colors necessarily.
Oh, it doesn't yet. No, I want you to keep with one color. You pick one of the colors. I happen to pick blue. You could have picked red, or you could have picked yellow.
Okay.
So you just pick one of the colors.
Okay. And the other question is, what kind of paper do you use?
I use 140-pound cold press arches. I'm still stuck on it. I'm not real happy with the arches, the way it's been acting lately. But so far I've been able to keep working with it. It's the best. I haven't found any that I like better. So yeah, that's what I use. It takes a beating when I do a little bit of scrubbing on my paper and things. So I do like that paper. When I do acrylics, I like to use Strathmore Aquarius 2, the 80-pound. And that's what I use when I do acrylics. But with watercolor, and I have done watercolor on that paper too, but it's it tends to lift off when you do layers. And this is kind of important that each layer dries and it doesn't lift off because you're doing layer on this. So thank you for those questions. Those are good. Okay, so I've got my drawing on here. And when you have moved it around on your underpainting here, and you want to make sure that that you got in the right place, you tape it up at the top. And then once you tape that, I use Saral. I love Saral, S-A-R-A-L, graphite paper. You can use anything. Make sure you have the dark side down. And then you put that underneath and trace it. I already have this on here so that you guys wouldn't have to be watching me do that. But I can just show you. Just go like this and trace it. And then when you get done, you lift it off and you've got your drawing on your paper. Again, this paper is dry. Every single time I'm changing to a new one, that means that it has been dried. So I love to showcase the heads. This isn't a necessary thing, but if you notice photography at all, if you look through any magazines, you'll see that ladies or men or whatever are usually standing in a doorway, or they're standing in a hall or whatever, and that creates a stage for your people. And so what I did with these to create my stage was I just put my tape up here, and then I traced around the tape, and that made it pretty easy so that I would be able to have a show place for my figures. Okay, so now we were talking about, we've done just blue, we've done the yellow, the blue, the red. Now, what color here is one that you just don't see a lot of? Everybody know? Of my three colors, what am I missing? What do I have the least of?
The red.
Right. So now I'm going to do the red, and I call this my hugging my stars. And so with my hugging my stars, so first of all, I'm gonna showcase that stage that I talked about. I've still got my red. It's still just as watery as I showed you in the beginning. And I'm gonna put that around this circle thing. And this is when you start seeing, I've got a tiny bit of red that is pure that got over the white, but not enough to really show. And then then I will come down. I purposely had from that circle a linkage to the side. It's important that you have an area from the side to be able to come into the figures. So that's why I have that like that. Now, when I put that red over the green, usually in most of my work, what I used to do, I used to say, oh, that's a bad thing because I'm doing the opposites over the top of each other. And truly, if you don't want grays, that is something you want to watch, so that if I'm doing a huge painting, I might have changed my red to an orange as it went over the green. But when you do these little ones, I leave them as the pure. I put the red on, and I love that when it's dry, it's not so pretty. Or Carol Barnes helped me with a critique once, and she said, Karen, watch out for having your paintings too sweet. And I love that critique, because what that was basically telling me I had too many cotton candy colors. And so what the grays do is make the cotton candy colors even prettier, the brighter colors. And so if you're in my club, to be able to have a few grays is really important. I also saved just a tiny bit of that green on the side instead of having it clean over to the side. I thought, well, I can put that later if I want to. Now, I want you to hug your stars, and that if you drew a pear, I would be talking about a pear. If you drew a bird, I would be talking about the bottom part of the bird. So right here, I'm going to go over the top up to the edge of the figures, and with the red still, I'm going to stay with the red, and I'm going to do that green links into her. And I've still got that bead going. You see how wet that is? So that you have really glowing colors. Now I've got a purple happening, and I am feeling much better. I don't know about you guys, but now that we're starting to see where your red is repeated, I'm starting to feel a little bit more balanced. So let's see, now we'll go over here. Save a little bit of that yellow. It's kind of fun. So I'm thinking, as I'm painting over the top of those every time, what I am doing right now is called negative painting. And every time when I'm doing it, I'm thinking, well, if I paint over all of that, does that mean that I'm going to lose it? I'm going to completely lose it, and you can't get that back. Well, you can. I'll show you a way to get it back later. But if I don't want to have to scrub and all that, then I want to be thinking about that now. Okay, so now I've got on the outside, and here's between the figures, like I said, when I showed you a little demo of how to draw them, how you see it's nice to have just a little space between them. So here's the carrot for the guy, and then here's the woman with the long dress. And then I want, let's see, I want that to come across right here. By the way, I don't know if you all heard, if you were all here at the beginning, at the end of today's demo, we have put everybody's, as you came in, Mary was writing down everybody's name, and I'm going to give away my demo painting to, we're going to have a drawing. You have to be present though. So that means if you're bored, you have to stick it out for the hour. So there you go. Now I've done my hugging. You're starting to see the figures a little bit, but in the heads, now I'm in a light area here. So in the light area, especially when I'm in white, I'm going to paint inside of the figures here. So in the light area, and I want to show you how I gray the color a little bit. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to add a little bit of that blue into it, just a tiny bit. Do you see the difference already? And just a tiny bit of that yellow into it. And now I've got a grayed red. I don't want it to be quite as bright there. So now I'll put that grayed red inside of the head. By the way, when you draw these figures, it's kind of important that you pay attention to how their heads are turned. Are the heads turning towards each other, or are they away? Because it can look like they're having a fight. You know, it's important that you have good body language when you're working with these. I'm going to change the blue here. And because this is nice and wet, you see I'm able to change with no problem. And before it gets down to where I hugged down here, I want this to disappear, but I want to get it down to there. So right here, I want that to go a little bit further. So that if I erase those pencil lines, I would still see the figure. So now, when I fade this out, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up with a thirsty brush. And now I'm going to take clean water with my 1/2 inch brush, and I am going to turn my brush sideways so that when you do the sideways, that's making a waterway that is a 1/2 inch wide, 1/2 inch wide. And so if I go like this, all I'm doing is pulling the paint down. So if I go sideways like this, you see it blends just beautifully because it's creating a pathway for those two to get to. Okay, that's gonna have one more, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, so now the woman, I usually just change it just a touch. I might add a little more blue into it, just something so it just makes it just a tiny bit different. It is on yellow, so that'll make it a little different there too. Okay. She's looking kind of gray, which is okay. Today the man is more important. Tomorrow the woman will be more important, right? Equal rights. And again, once I come down to this where it's negative painted around, then I know it's my cue to get rid of, to have this fade away. So I'm going to pick up that extra with a thirsty brush, and then I'm going to come sideways with this and fade that out. So it works just beautifully. So when I was telling you about doing the having the bead and really pulling that and everything, I really learned how to do that just from I saw it in books where you talk about mowing a lawn kind of thing, and I don't know, I just never took hold. Pat Undes really had a good way of doing it, and she talked about the bead and going down, and I just found that if you add a lot of water to that and stuff, that was just such a good learning experience. I bet you I've been painting for 15, 20 years before I learned that trick of having holding it at an angle and having that bead come down. You see how glassy this is? It just gets to be really, really pretty layers. Okay, so now I can see the people, I can see through them pretty well. I think I would like well, I'll do that on the next one. So I will let this dry, and so I will change to another one. Voila, it's dry. And now I'll show you, like, if you find that like this woman, it doesn't have enough illusionary in there. And so I look and see what does it need repeated, and I think I'd like to do a yellow on there. And so I'll show you how you do that. Another way to add an illusionary look. So I'll just have a square here. And again, this is going to look very yellow when I put it down, but it will change, you know, because it's on top of blue. So that's going to make a blue. This is going to make a different color of green that was there before. And I'll just come straight down from that. Okay, so her dress has got a little bit more action in there. All right, so to look at my steps to make sure. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you recover your whites. So I love this white here, and lots of times in my paintings I always talk about having a light pathway. And so with these simple color exercises, it's easier if you don't do it that way. So I'm going to show you, this is another way to do it. So I want to have a white over on the side here and over on the side here. So I've got my white in 3 different areas. And so I think I won't miss this yellow here. If I want to hold just a little tiny bit of it, I can have a tiny bit of it at the top. I have to be careful because that is wet right there. So I'll just put this like this. And I really like, if you guys had experience with different tapes, the tape that I like is called Manco, or it's Duck, D-U-C-K. Used to be called Manco. Now I think it changed to Duck. Not duct tape, Duck. And you can get it at the grocery store. I do. I get it at Rainbow. And so I am making an island right here. And then I'm going to take my toothbrush and I'm getting clear water. And if you do little circles with this, for some reason, when you go up and down, it just doesn't work as well. But if you do the circles, it works better. So I love coming, when I teach, lots of times my students will go, it's not working, I'm not getting it. And then I'll come over and I'll do my little circles, and it's just like magic. So it just makes a difference. I don't know why, but when you dab it, I'm careful not to push down too hard. I'm barely touching it. Then you take your tape off like this, not up like this, not like this, but at flat onto itself. If you take it flat onto itself, it's not going to tear your paper. Because I had a painting that I did. I used to be in Uptown Art Fair, and I did a lot of paintings, rivers, a lot of water, a lot of landscape paintings, and I was all done with the painting, and you just knew that that was going to be your showcase. I'm going to put that in an important part. I love the painting and stuff, and all done. I'm taking off the tape on the outside edge, and it ripped right across the river. And so what you have to do in those circumstances is, with me, is I'm never going to just give up. So necessity is the mother of invention. So I took unru paper, and I unru is a collage paper, and I took that and I glued on both sides of that paper, and it worked. And that was one of my first paintings to sell. And so, when I had the clients, I said, boy, there's a story with this painting, so told them all about it, and they wanted it even more, because they were just like, wow, you never give up. and when you do any collage like that, you have to do it in more than one place. You can't just, I couldn't have just fixed the river. So it was several hours, but I didn't give up on the painting because I'd been working on it for a couple of days. So I thought, nope, that's that one I'm gonna still have fun with. So it had more collage, so I added the collage in different parts of your painting, just like I'm doing right now, where I have different whites in different parts of my painting, and all the colors are in different. It's kind of important that you disperse things around. You can't just fix something and then say, oh, that's done. Okay, so doesn't that add life? That should be your lesson right there. Having whites in a painting is so important to make all of the other colors pretty. But the other thing that makes colors really pretty is if you have contrast. And so when I'm 3/4 of the way through my painting, I lots of times will take pictures of it, and then I will say, okay, it's not enough contrast yet, and so I will keep going with the glazes and stuff. So okay, so I've got those wet, so I'll change to this one. And I want to show you about how I'm going to be making the outside darker, so I have a bigger contrast. So so I will now. I do think, what do I want to save? How can I have some fun with this and maybe draw something in this? I want to keep these pretty simple, but I will draw a little something over here just so that I can show you. If I draw like just a bar right here, and I can save that color of brown here. This is going to be a deeper red, and this will be the gray that'll still be there. And then maybe on this side, I'll just save a little bit of it right next to the green, just for fun.
Karen, someone would like you to explain rivers of white again.
Okay, so the white pathway is where you have white going from in a cruciform design usually, and right here, even this takes me across the woman, and then you can decide whether you're going to be leading, whether it's going to be leading you to over here. I could scrub out a little bit afterwards so that my light pathway is connected all the way through to at least 3 sides. You can do it 4 sides too. But I think we'll see how our timing is, because at the very end, I was maybe going to show you how to do one where I have a light pathway in it too. Did that explain it to whoever asked? All right, so now we've got
She didn't say that it didn't, so it must be okay.
all right, sounds good.
Oh, she said yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make this darker, and one thing you learn in watercolor is when you get more and more layers, don't you just get happy? And it just really, it's glaring a little bit. See if I can get that a little bit better. Move it over there. There we go. I just get, the more I get into the painting, like Dick used to come home from work and just like, where's, what's for supper? And I'd go, oh my goodness, well, we're going out again. Guess what? Now I can make it a little bit thicker now too, if I want to. It's still very wet, but I can make it just slightly thicker than what it was before. So I'm going to leave that little line of gray right there. And then I'm going to leave this part. And, when you're done, these end up looking like, this could be like a fence, or they're at a pier looking over the water. I mean, people make up their own stories with these. And I love it when they make the story, I usually direct them a little bit with the title. And that's the other thing. I usually like to have a title. 3/4 of the way through my painting, I want to have a title. And if I don't, that means I'm not putting my heart and soul into that painting. That's my feeling. So I do like to have a title. Have you ever done where you entered a show and you put untitled, right? But when I read a title, lots of times it'll make me think even in a different direction than maybe what I was thinking. And I go, oh, look at, they were intending on, it's an anniversary, or, whatever. But lots of times, like if they've just had a fight, that's kind of fun to put down too. However, those paintings don't sell as well when you have conflict, just to tell you. So I'm doing another layer on this now. I saved a little bit of that gray color. When this dries, you'll still see this being a gray color because green was underneath of this, remember? You'll still see it. You still see that line through there. That's the neat thing about these illusionary paintings. But if I want, maybe sometimes I'll line up with something else. And so if I put a line down from here, let's see, cancel down here. Okay. So now I will leave this one, this violet here, and then I will keep going with my red rose deep. And I will get up next to her outfit again. And I think you're going to start seeing her a little bit better than what you could before. If you see me getting off camera, just tell me, okay, Wendy? I caught myself there.
Yep, nope, you're doing great. Thank you.
You guys realize that it's almost bedtime for me. when I was going to do this demo, I thought, oh wow, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of getting to bed early these days. I don't know what's going on with me, but I am. So when they said that the meeting started at 7, and then we had a little bit of a meeting before we started, and I thought, oh man, I hope I can stay awake. But so far, I'm good. Because it's an hour later here. It's really funny when you have when you teach Zoom and you've got people that are from the UK or wherever, and it's I mean, they have to set their alarm or stay up way late. I know we were going to have like happy hour one time to get to know each other, and one of the gals from the UK said, oh, that's 10 o'clock for me. I'll be there for just barely, but then I'm going to be gone. So, so that's the beauty of these Zoom. You can get, from all over the world and stuff. So, okay. So now I'm feeling like the colors are getting better. I see the people more, but yet you can see through them because of all of the things that we did earlier. And so, so we'll move on to this next one, and we will get the black. We'll add the black. And I love to do this just to be able, this truly makes all of the colors even prettier. And so I'm going to mix, I'll show you my palette again so you can see how thick this is. So this is Windsor green. And I believe there's 2 Windsor greens. I believe this is the yellow shade one. Windsor green, and it's an awful color all by itself. At least I think it is. And then now I'm going to mix from the other side of my palette. I'm going to go clear down to the alizarin crimson. And I want you to notice I have not cleaned my brush. And look at the green getting on the top of my acrylic, my alizarin crimson. It doesn't matter because this is dried in my palette. So it's only going to contaminate that very top layer of this. The only color I don't do that with is yellow. And I have 2 yellows in my palette, 2 areolan yellows because of that. So now what I am doing is I'm mixing these 2 together, and you'll notice I am not adding water. So this is a lot thicker. And I don't want this to look red, and I don't want it to look green. And once I get that combination, you'll see, can you see how thick that is? That's what I want, and that will be a pure black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right up next to him. I'm going to save just a tiny bit of that red at the top of it. And then I'll put just a little bit of this on the edge. And I'm still, when I look at this, and I just see the power of what that black does for your paintings. Now, when I do great big paintings, I might just get to an Antwerp color, pure Antwerp, or I might get to alizarin crimson or forest green or something. I can that would be fine, because you can get pretty dark with those colors. But the black right now with these little ones, I love getting it just as black as I can get. And then what I do is I'm going to take another brush, and I'm going to get my alizarin crimson, and I'm going to mix a little bit of that. It's mainly the red rose deep, and I'm going to put that on down below their hands first. Now, the reason that I do that, so you can see that's alizarin crimson, and I know that it's not, I can see it better than you can because I can see what you're seeing. This is redder than that is. And so as I get down to the bottom here, I'm going to add more water to this as it goes. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is up here, while this is still wet and it has that red rose deep color in there, I'm going to add the black into it. Now, if I had put the black on there and tried to have that disappear, it wouldn't have worked. Because it's too thick. So you can't make that disappear. So that's why I want to put the color on there first. So I'm going to be putting my red on there first again. This one I'm not going to come down as far.
Karen, somebody wants to know how you decide where to put the black.
I decide, first of all, because I want to get close to my center of interest. I want to lead you to the center of interest from the sides of the paper. And then I want to kind of direct your eye to the other sides of the paper, but I want the darkest, I want the most intense contrast to be by your center of interest. And so that's what I put this red, I'll elaborate on that a little bit more after I get done with this. So I'm putting that black on the edge. Also, what I'm thinking when I'm putting the black on the edge there is that when I have black on one side of a white, I want to have black on the other side too. It's called the bookend rule, and it just works. So I used to tell my students, I always say, you know, if a guy goes behind a tree, you're waiting for that guy to come out the other side of the tree. It's not going to be something else. It's going to be the guy, right? So, so just think of it that way. So it works out pretty well. So that's how you decide where you want your blacks, is you want to have it, it's bookending your center of interest. And then I'm directing your eye from that down. Now, right now, I've got my red rose deep, and I need that to come. Here's another bookend thing where that doesn't read well to me, just a little bit. And then I let it change. And that little trick works beautiful. That's a little bit. All right. So now I put the black on the top of this while it's still wet. The black goes in your last layer, that, you know, so I wouldn't ever put black in this yellow. I would never put black. I mean, it has to go in your darkest layer. So that was I knew it had to go somewhere in that layer that I had just done. Okay, so now his head, I want to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to put another layer on that of this red. And this, I'm going to have a dirty red kind of. And then we'll come and fade this out. Fade this out. You know, when people are backlit, their heads become dark. And so that's what I'm thinking of here. The other thing I love to do is to paint with a stick. And so I always tease everybody when I paint in other states. So the one person from Illinois, you're out of luck because it has to be a Minnesota stick. So anyway, I've got this stick, and I just absolutely love at this point taking my dark black and putting this is the stick, and I get the black in the edge of it. And I know that, like on her, especially on her, I can put this with the stick, and what it does is it does a scumpling thing. It's different than a brush. And so I like that. I actually usually I'll do it on this side too, but I usually like to do it when it's dry. And then I take a small brush, and I just barely take it out of focus over here. But no brush can do that, little scumpling thing. It kind of, no brush can do it. And so isn't it fun that we can paint with a stick? The last trick I want to show you is, let's say that you got done and you said, I want more blue in this. I want to be able to see. So have you guys all heard of Caran d'Ache Neo colors? This is Caran d'Ache is spelled CARAN''DACHE. And this is that I think these are charcoal mixed with watercolor. I wouldn't use this if I was entering it in the Transparent Watercolor Society of America. But if I want a blue, I want you to see how cool that is, where I can get a blue over on the side here. And I'll just do the same thing over here. I love using it for accents. So when I go to enter something in Transparent Watercolor Society, I usually have to do a fresh one every year before deadline, which, by the way, the deadline is coming up the end of January sometime. So if you haven't done it, now's your time. But if I put water, just a thirsty brush amount of water on this, it just makes it come alive a little bit more. And I just love that little extra. So let's see, and I will show you then, here's the one that's completely done, got the mat on there, the whole shebang, so that you can see this. And I will, if there's any questions, but I do want to show you how I do these when I maybe want to have a pathway of light. See, how's our time? Yeah, we're about time's almost out, isn't it?
You're doing really good. It is almost 10 after 8, so we got about 5 more minutes.
Okay. So let me go through real quickly with the pathway and show you how I think of that. For these little studies, I don't have a light pathway usually. Like I showed you, I scrub them out afterwards. And so that's just the way I handle these, because it's just an easy, fun little process. But if I was working with here's a brand new one, with my shapes on here, and I wanted to have a light pathway also, so that I have more insurance of having those colors, like that red, pure red could have been on the other side. My process is this, and if I say, okay, this is going to be a blue one here, I'm going to start at the left-hand side, and then my object is to get up to the top of the page, and I know that this was white, so I'm going to go up to the top of the page on this. So there's that. So now here's my white here. Now my object is to get to this side, to the right side. So I can wander around this however I want, but I want to get to this side of the paper. Now I want to get from this side to the bottom, and I am going to just make a little crook in it just for fun, and to the bottom. Okay, so now I go one more line and I get right back to the start, over to the side that I started on. So now when I paint, and I'll just do this real quickly because I know we're running out of time. So I'm just going to show you real quick. There's the blue, sort of, a little bit of purple. And let's see, this one is the red. Okay, and then our yellow was our last one that we did. In this case, when you have the light pathway, you stay out of that light pathway. So I'm going to do the yellow here in this corner. Usually we went right up to that edge. And then I'll do the yellow over here in this edge. And one more yellow and down here. And voila, you have a light pathway like magic. Okay, and then the process of this is exactly the same as before. You draw all of the things coming in from the side, except now you get to go across this light pathway, because that's done, and everything that crosses that pathway will be a very, very pretty color. Like I think you missed at the beginning. I'm going to show it one more time. So I don't think the recording was going yet. This one was done with the light pathway. with those same 3 colors that I just worked with you, okay? And so you can see those beautiful whites that are just hit and missing through that piece. And so it's a really fun way to do it. If you want advanced, this would be a little bit more advanced. Otherwise, I think it's really better to stay with the way that I showed you, and then you just scrub out the whites. So one more thing before I let you go. There are, if you want to go to my website is www.karenknutson.com. Make sure you spell it right, Tson. You can get color study lesson on there for only $10. The whole book you can print off, and when you print it off, it'll be printed on regular typing paper size, and then I have, it just shows real easy how you cut off the edges. And every one of these pages tells exactly what colors were used to get, what 3 colors were used to get these paintings. This is one of my favorite ones. Who would have thought sap green could turn out such beautiful colors? So I'm putting it back in my palette. I was using it to use it up, but this one was sap green and red rose deep, and I think areola yellow. I'm not sure about that, but it's in here. It's in the book. So that's that little advertisement about that. If you want to order that book, it's a PDF file, and you just print it off. Make sure you use Epson paper, EPSON, to print it off, because it's just a beautiful paper. So any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions, but Karen, that was
Okay,
absolutely
all right. So
fabulous.
now we are going to have the drawing. Mary?
Yep.
Mary has all of the names of everybody that is here, and somebody is going to win this painting.
Yes.
And who
Okay.
is the lucky winner, Mary?
Well, first I have to tell you, I should never have volunteered for this, because you ended up, Karen, with 74 people watching tonight.
Oh, wow.
Woo!
Isn't
That's
that
like-
nice? Oh,
So I
wow.
was ripping paper and writing names like crazy. And we have a lot of people named iPad, I found out. So. Anyway, I'm shaking them all up right now.
Okay.
Great.
What are you going to do if you draw?
And out a name,
Yep.
and the name is Ann Bent.
Oh, Anne. Oh, my gosh.
Ooh,
I
all
think
right.
it's
Congratulations.
Anne. Oh, Anne,
Oh my
congratulations.
gosh, I'm shocked.
So,
And
Anne,
Wow.
you
And I need your address so
Yeah.
that we can send it to you.
need your
Okay.
address, and I will send this in the mail to you. And thanks so
Okay.
much, everybody, for joining me. And I hope you have fun working with these. And if you ever get to Venice, Florida, look me up.
Thanks so much, Karen.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was a delight. It was so much fun watching you and listening, and we just all had the greatest time. So thank you again.
You're welcome. I love
Definitely
doing it.
inspirational. Definitely inspirational.